He had everything: money, power, the kind of name people whispered with respect, but never with warmth. Every night he went home to silence so thick it pressed on his chest. Ethan Reed lived high above the city, yet he'd never felt lower. Rain washed down his glass walls like time slipping away. Below, car horns and laughter mixed with thunder. Life kept moving without him. He told himself he liked the rain. It covered the world in blur and made loneliness sound poetic. That night he drove without purpose, no music, no calls. Just the hum of the engine and the voice in his head asking what any of it meant. Streetlights flickered on wet pavement. Reflections stretched and broke beneath his tires. He'd built empires out of deals and digits, turned ambition into armor. But the armor had grown heavy. Every success added another chain. He turned a corner and stopped. Something small lay near the gutter under a broken street lamp, a bundle of fabric maybe. A lost bag. It moved. He stepped on the brake. Headlights sliced through the rain and caught two shapes on the sidewalk. A boy no older than 8, crouched over a smaller girl, shielding her with his own body. Their clothes were soaked. Hair plastered to pale faces. Ethan's heartbeat slowed and sharpened at once. He killed the engine and pushed the door open. Cold water soaked his shoes instantly. The boy's eyes snapped up, wild and terrified. "Please, don't take her away." The words came out as a whisper drowned by the rain, yet they hit harder than any shout. Ethan froze. He didn't even know what the boy meant, but he could feel the fear inside it. He crouched slowly, hands open, voice low. "It's all right. I won't hurt you." The boy said nothing, clutching the girl tighter. Her small hand twitched against his chest. Ethan looked closer. Her lips were pale, her breathing shallow. She was alive, but barely. "We need to get her warm," he said. "No hospitals," the boy snapped, shaking his head. Ethan hesitated. The look in those eyes wasn't stubbornness. It was survival. He nodded once. "Okay, my car's warm." That's all. The boy studied him for a long second, then nodded too. He lifted the girl gently, like she was made of glass. Ethan opened the back door. They climbed in without another word. Inside, the heater roared softly. Steam rose from wet clothes, fogging the windows. The boy wrapped his arms around the girl again as if the warmth might vanish. Ethan drove. The rain eased to a mist. He checked the mirror. The boy's face was streaked with dirt, his jaw set in a way that looked older than it should. "What's your name?" Ethan asked. "Liam, and hers?" "Sophie." He nodded, saying nothing more. The names felt like pieces of a puzzle sliding into place somewhere deep in his chest. A diner sign blinked ahead. "Open 24 hours. Ethan pulled in. Inside, the air smelled of coffee and frying bread. The waitress stared but didn't ask questions. She'd seen worse nights. Ethan ordered soup and hot chocolate. When it arrived, Liam fed Sophie tiny spoonfuls, patient, careful. She smiled faintly. "Thank you." Ethan felt something twist inside him. Guilt, maybe. Or something softer he hadn't felt in years. He'd donated fortunes to charities, built hospitals with his name on the walls. None of it ever felt like this one moment of simple gratitude. Outside, the rain stopped. He paid the bill and guided them back to the car. Sophie's head rested on Liam's shoulder before they even reached the door. As they drove through empty streets, Ethan looked in the mirror again. Sophie's face reflected in the dashboard glow. Something in her eyes caught him off guard. Familiar, haunting, like déjà vu wearing a child's face. He couldn't place it. A memory brushed past and slipped away. He told himself it was nothing. Just tiredness, coincidence. But deep down, something had started moving. Something he'd locked away long ago. The city thinned as he drove. Glass towers gave way to quiet streets and shuttered shops. The world looked half asleep, washed clean by rain. Liam watched every turn, like he was memorizing escape routes. Ethan saw it in the mirror, the look of someone who had learned not to trust daylight. He stopped, beside a small pharmacy that was still lit. "Wait here," he said. Liam's eyes narrowed. "You're coming back, right?" "Promise," Ethan said. He ran inside, bought medicine, bandages, water, snacks, whatever came to mind. When he returned, Liam was exactly where he'd been, hand locked around the door handle. Ready to bolt if he had to, Ethan passed him the bag. "You did good. Let's get her warm and dry." They reached the edge of the river, where old warehouses slept. Against the water, Ethan owned one, an apartment. Above the dock that no one else knew about. It was supposed to be a retreat. It had turned into storage for his loneliness. The door groaned as he pushed it open. Dust and silence. He turned on the lights. The place looked the same as he'd left it, half-packed boxes, untouched furniture, air heavy with memories. He laid Sophie on the couch, covered her with blankets, and checked her temperature. Fever, but not dangerous. She'd live if she rested. Liam hovered beside her, refusing to sit until Ethan did. Ethan found towels, clean shirts, a heater that still worked. Soon the room was filled with soft warmth and the smell of instant soup. Liam finally relaxed a little, eyes following every move Ethan made. "She's all I've got," he said quietly. Ethan looked up. "Where are your parents?" Liam shook his head. "Gone. Long time. We stayed in shelters, sometimes streets. Then those men came. They said she was worth money." The words hit Ethan like a blow. Worth money. He swallowed hard. "Who were they?" Liam shrugged. "I don't know. They just said her name. Sophie Miller. Miller." The sound hollowed him. He crossed to a drawer and pulled out an old wallet. Inside was a photo he'd kept even when he tried to forget. A woman laughing, hair wild in the wind, holding a baby with eyes the color of morning light. Claire Miller. The only person who had ever made him believe in beginnings. His throat tightened. He looked at the girl sleeping on his couch. The same eyes. Same small scar above the wrist he remembered kissing before she and her mother disappeared. Ethan turned the photo over. Claire's handwriting was still clear, for when the rain finally stops. He felt his pulse in his ears. Could it really be her? Could the world be that cruel and kind at once? He sat down heavily. Liam noticed. "You okay?" Ethan nodded, lying with his eyes. He waited until Liam fell asleep in the armchair before whispering to the quiet room. "I found you, Claire." I finally found her. Morning crept in slow gold light sliding across the floor. Sophie woke first. Her eyes blinked open, confused, then curious. "Where are we?" "Somewhere safe," Ethan said. She looked at him for a long moment, then smiled, small and shy. "You look like the man in Mom's picture." He froze. "What picture?" Mom kept it in a box. "She said he was someone who loved the rain." The words broke something inside him. He turned away before she could see his eyes. "Do you remember your mom?" he asked softly. Sophie nodded. "She said if we ever get lost, we should find the man who smells like rain and coffee." Ethan almost laughed through the ache in his chest. He'd always smelled like that. Rain from endless walks, coffee from sleepless nights. He poured her another cup of warm milk, hands shaking. "You're safe now," he said again, meaning it more this time. Outside, sunlight hit the river, bright and blinding. He thought of Claire somewhere beyond that horizon. Why she left. Why she kept their daughter from him. Maybe she was running from something worse than heartbreak. He didn't know yet. But the answer was coming, fast, dark, and uninvited. Sunlight pooled on the floor like spilled honey. For a few minutes, it felt almost normal. The scent of toast, the hiss of the kettle, Sophie's laughter echoing against brick walls that hadn't heard joy in years. Ethan watched her chase a patch of light. Across the rug, every small movement reminded him of Claire, her way of tilting her head, the soft hum when she was thinking. Liam sat by the window. "Alert even while eating. You should lock the door," he said quietly. Ethan smiled. "Already did. But thank you." Liam nodded, eyes still scanning the street below. He was only 10, but his stare carried the weight of someone who'd seen too much. Ethan handed him a plate. "Eat while it's hot." Liam hesitated, then took a bite, almost surprised by the warmth. He looked up. "Why are you helping us?" Ethan didn't answer right away. "Because someone once helped me," he said at last. "And because I think I was meant to find you." The words hung in the air, quiet but heavy. Sophie pointed at an old piano in the corner. "Can I?" Ethan nodded. She pressed one key, then another, uncertain at first, then confident as the notes rose and filled the room. He hadn't heard that sound in years. Claire used to play that same melody, something she'd written the night before she left. He stood there frozen, every note slicing through the years between them. But the moment shattered with a knock, sharp, 2 times. Then silence. Liam's eyes widened. "They found us." Ethan motioned for them to stay quiet. He moved to the door, peered through the small crack in the curtains. A man in a gray coat stood on the street, looking around like he was searching for something, or someone. Behind him, a black van waited at the curb. Ethan's stomach dropped. He recognized the insignia on the van's door. Private security. The same company he'd once owned shares in before he sold everything. Why would they be here? He stepped back, heart hammering. Liam whispered, "What do we do?" Ethan grabbed his coat. "Go to the back room. Stay low. Don't open the door for anyone but me." He waited until they disappeared behind the curtain, then cracked open the front door just an inch. The man turned instantly, eyes sharp. "Mr. Cole?" he called. Ethan froze. It had been years since anyone used his full name. "We need to talk, sir." "It's about a missing child. 2, actually." Ethan's mind raced. He could lie. Say he knew nothing. But the tremor in the man's voice wasn't official. It was desperate. He opened the door wider. "You're looking for Sophie Miller?" The man nodded. "We were hired to retrieve her." "But something's off." Ethan frowned. "Off how?" The client's name was blacked out. "The payment, wired from 3 different countries. And now 2 of our men are missing." Ethan's pulse spiked. "Missing?" The man looked over his shoulder. "They vanished after following the children near the docks. We found tire marks, a struggle. No sign of them." Ethan felt the weight of every word. So whoever wanted Sophie wasn't done yet. He glanced back inside, where her laughter had just filled the room. He couldn't lose her. Not again. "What if I told you she's safe?" he asked carefully. The man exhaled. "Then keep her that way. Because whoever's paying for her isn't human anymore." He turned and walked away, disappearing into the city's noise like he was never there. The van rolled off, leaving silence behind. Ethan closed the door, leaning against it, trying to steady his breathing. He could feel the clock starting to tick. Liam stepped out, clutching Sophie's hand. "Is it over?" "No," Ethan said quietly. "It's just beginning." He looked at the photograph again, Claire's handwriting glowing faintly in the morning light, for when the rain finally stops. Maybe the rain hadn't stopped at all. Maybe it had only just begun. Ethan couldn't sleep that night. The city outside hummed in the dark. But inside the old warehouse, time had stopped. He sat by the window, coffee growing cold in his hands, watching the rain trace the glass. Each drop carried a memory. Each sound whispered her name. Claire. She had walked into his life during another storm years ago. Wet hair, wild laughter, a folder full of impossible ideas. She said she wanted to build homes for children with no names. No safety, no second chances. He had the money. She had the fire. Together they made something good. Back then, he thought that was enough, until the night she disappeared with their baby. No warning. No note, just silence. He'd searched for years, hired investigators, followed rumors, checked every orphanage in 3 countries. Nothing, until last night, until Sophie whispered, "You look like the man in Mom's picture." Now every heartbeat felt like a countdown. He looked over at the couch where she slept. Curls pressed against the pillow, Liam curled up protectively beside her. 2 kids who had already lived too much pain. And somehow, they had walked straight into his story. He rose quietly, opened the old safe in the corner, and pulled out a file marked Miller Project, yellowed papers, photos, letters, the faux. project that had started everything and ended everything. He remembered the day Claire showed him a newspaper. Clipping, undocumented children used for genetic trials. It sounded insane at first, until she proved it was real. A private medical foundation, funded by anonymous donors, buying kids from the streets under the guise of rehabilitation. She'd begged Ethan to help expose them. He agreed. But what he didn't know then was that one of his own companies had unknowingly funded them. When Claire found out, she was furious. She said she couldn't stay with a man whose money was built on broken lives. She left that night. Now the pieces fit like shards, the men in the van. The missing children, the same organization just hiding under a new name. Ethan's hands trembled as he closed the file. He'd thought his loneliness was punishment. But maybe it had been preparation. He turned when he heard soft footsteps. Sophie stood there, sleepy-eyed, dragging her blanket. "Can't sleep?" he asked. She shook her head. "Can you tell me about my mom?" The question hit him like a wave. He nodded slowly, gesturing for her to sit beside him. She was light, he said. Everywhere she went, things grew better, louder, brighter. She loved rain because it made people look up. Sophie smiled. "I love rain too." He stared at her, heartbeat unsteady. "Yeah, you do." She leaned against his shoulder. "Mom said one day the rain would bring us home." He looked out the window again. Maybe it finally did. Morning came pale and cold. Ethan stepped outside, scanning the street before heading to the car. He needed to know who was still looking for Sophie, and why. Liam tried to follow. "Stay with her," Ethan said. "You'll come back?" "Always." He drove to the city's edge, to a building that used to be his, Coal Industries. He hadn't set foot there in years. The guards didn't recognize him at first. But one glance at the ID in his wallet changed their tone. He walked through sterile halls that smelled like bleach and old secrets. Every light flicker felt wrong. He entered his old office. Everything was cleaner now, colder. The new CEO had kept his portrait on the wall, smiling, confident, hollow. Ethan opened the file drawer under the desk. The Miller project had been erased from official records, but he'd hidden copies. Except now. The folder was gone. Footsteps behind him, a voice he hadn't heard in years. "Still chasing ghosts, Ethan?" He turned. Daniel Graves, the man who'd been his closest friend and business partner, the one who'd taken over after Claire vanished. Ethan's jaw tightened. "What did you do with the Miller project files?" Daniel smiled. "You should have left that buried." "Where's Claire?" Ethan demanded. Daniel's eyes flickered, just once. She made her choice. "You should too." Ethan stepped closer. "You're behind the vans. The men. The kids." Daniel cut him off. "You don't understand, Ethan. You funded all this. Every dollar traced back to you." Ethan froze. He felt the ground tilt under him. Daniel leaned in. "The world doesn't change with kindness. It changes with control. That's what Claire never understood. That's why she took your daughter and ran." Ethan's vision blurred with rage. "You're lying," Daniel smirked. "Then why is she still running?" He left the office before Ethan could reply. The words echoed long after he was gone. "Why is she still running?" He drove back to the warehouse in silence, rain starting again, heavy and cold. Every drop hit like accusation. When he arrived, the lights were off. Liam was pacing. "She's gone," he whispered. "They took her." Ethan's breath caught. "Who?" Liam pointed to the floor, muddy footprints leading to the open window, a small shoe left behind. Ethan's pulse thundered. He looked out into the night. Somewhere out there, Sophie was calling for help, and this time, he wasn't losing her. He grabbed his coat, loaded the car, and handed Liam a flashlight. "You're not leaving me here," the boy said. Ethan nodded once. "Then let's bring her home." As they sped into the storm, Ethan whispered the same words Claire once did. "When the rain starts, follow it. It always leads home." But neither of them knew the truth waiting on the other side of that rain. That the people who took Sophie weren't just after her. They were after him too. because buried deep in his past was a secret worth killing for. The wipers fought the rain, useless against the downpour. Headlights blurred into streaks of white fire. Ethan gripped the wheel so hard his knuckles burned. Liam sat beside him, flashlight in hand, scanning every street sign like it might spell Sophie's name. The city felt smaller now, like every corner hid a secret. Every shadow breathed. She's out there, Ethan kept saying to himself. She has to be. They reached the docks first, empty, only the whisper of waves and the hum of distant engines. Then the old rail yard. Nothing but rust and ghosts. Liam pointed suddenly. There, a toy, Sophie's, a small stuffed rabbit lying in a puddle, one ear torn. Ethan stopped the car. Heart hammering, he picked it up, soaked through, still warm. She'd been here minutes ago. He turned when he heard a faint cry. Not far, somewhere between the warehouses. They ran. Rain lashed against their faces. Footsteps echoing off metal walls. Ethan called her name once. Twice. Silence. Then, a muffled voice. Help. He followed it through a half-open gate into a loading bay, lit by a single flickering bulb. Sophie sat on the floor, rope around her wrists, eyes wide with fear. Ethan rushed forward, then froze. Behind her, a figure stepped from the shadows. Daniel. He held a gun. Calm, almost polite. You should have stayed gone. Ethan's voice shook with fury. Let her go, Daniel smiled. You still don't get it. She's the key. Key to what? To everything you built, and everything she stole. He nodded toward Sophie. Claire hid something inside her. Data, memory, a code, whatever you want to call it. It's in her blood. The last piece of the Miller project. Ethan's stomach twisted. She's a child. She's the future, Daniel said softly. And you, old friend, you're the lock she was meant to open. Ethan stepped closer. You touch her, and I end this. Daniel's finger tightened on the trigger, then ended. Lightning flashed. A shot cracked through the air, and Daniel fell. Liam stood behind him, trembling, the flashlight replaced by Ethan's old revolver. He dropped it the second it was done. Ethan pulled Sophie close, cutting the ropes, checking her pulse, her breath, her tears. It's okay, he whispered. I've got you. She looked up at him, voice trembling. He said you made me. Ethan froze. What? He said you and Mom built me in a lab. The words hit harder than the storm. He knelt, trying to breathe. That's not true, Sophie. You're real. You're human. She interrupted. Then why can't I remember being little? Rain thundered on the roof. Ethan stared at her, unable to lie anymore. Because Claire was trying to save you, he said. There were things done to kids. To you. She erased what hurt most. Sophie's eyes filled. Did you hurt me too? Never. He hugged her tight, his tears mixing with the rain on her hair. Sirens wailed in the distance. Police, medics, someone had heard the shot. He looked at Liam. We have to go. They drove until the lights vanished behind them. The city turned to mist. Roads to mud. Finally, they reached the cabin in the hills, Claire's old research outpost. Inside, everything was exactly as she'd left it. Notes, drawings, a journal on the desk. Ethan opened it. Page after page of plans. Formulas and letters addressed to him. Ethan. She'd written, if you're reading this, I'm gone. They'll never stop. Sophie isn't what they think. She's not data. She's proof that humanity can begin again. Pure, unprogrammed compassion. Protect her, and forgive me for running. He closed the book, shaking. All this time, she hadn't abandoned him. She'd been trying to protect them all. Outside, the rain eased. For the first time in years, Ethan felt something shift inside him. Hope, fragile but alive. Liam came to the doorway. She's sleeping. Safe. Ethan nodded. Good. But peace didn't last. Headlights flashed through the trees, more vehicles. Black, unmarked. Ethan grabbed the journal, stuffed it into his coat. Time to run again. They slipped out the back, into the woods. Branches tore at their clothes. Wind howled through the trees behind them. Engines roared and voices shouted. The world had narrowed to footsteps and fear. Sophie stumbled once, crying. Ethan lifted her, whispering, "It's just rain, sweetheart." Just rain. But he knew what it really was. A storm coming for redemption or ruin. They reached the riverbank. The current raged. Across it, faint lights from another road. "Safety. We'll never make it," Liam said. "We have to," Ethan replied. He tied a rope around a fallen branch, threw it across and tested the pull. "Go," he said. "Now." Liam crossed first, clinging to the line, then Ethan with Sophie in his arms. Halfway through, a spotlight hit them. Shouts, gunfire. Ethan pushed Sophie ahead, yelling, "Run! Don't stop!" A bullet ripped past, grazing his shoulder. Pain exploded. He almost fell, but the current caught him and threw him forward onto the far bank. Liam dragged him up. Sophie screamed his name. He managed a weak smile. "Still smells like rain, huh?" She nodded through tears. They stumbled toward the road. A truck screeched to a stop. The driver stepped out, a woman in a raincoat, hair streaked with silver, eyes Ethan knew better than his own. Claire. He froze. "You're alive." She nodded. Trembling, "You found her." He pulled Sophie close. "We found each other." Claire reached for them, tears streaming. "We don't have much time. They'll track us." Ethan handed her the journal. "I kept your promise." She smiled through her tears. "Then keep one more. Don't let the world break her like it broke us." He took her hand. Together they ran, disappearing into the dawn while the storm died behind them. For the first time, the rain didn't sound like grief. It sounded like beginning. The rain finally stopped, but the sky still carried its memory, gray, heavy, unsure if it should cry again. Ethan. Claire, Sophie, and Liam sat inside the small mountain cabin. The fire hissed. Steam rising from their soaked clothes. Nobody spoke for a long time. It was Sophie who broke the silence. "You said you were gone." Claire's eyes glistened. "I thought disappearing was the only way to keep you safe." Ethan watched her hands shake as she poured water into tin cups. Same hands that once built dreams with him. Brick by brick. Now they trembled like someone carrying ghosts. He finally asked, "What really happened, Claire?" She took a breath so deep it sounded like it hurt. The Miller Project wasn't about healing, Ethan. It was about control. They weren't fixing children. They were rewriting them. Ethan frowned. "But we were funding medical research." "On paper, yes," she said. "In practice, they were mapping empathy, trying to remove fear, grief, guilt. To build perfect obedience." Liam blinked. "Like robots?" Claire nodded. "Flesh and memory, instead of wires." "And Sophie?" She looked at her daughter. Sophie was proof it could be reversed. Ethan's chest tightened. "You used your own child to stop them. I used our child to save others," Claire said softly. "When I found out what they were doing, I couldn't expose them without evidence." Sophie's DNA carried the antidote, pure human emotion unaltered by the serum. That's why they've hunted her. Ethan stood, pacing. "All these years. You could have told me. I tried. But every call was traced, every message intercepted. They made you the face of their empire, Ethan. If I'd stayed, they'd have killed you to keep her." He stopped at the window, watching fog curl around the trees. "I spent 10 years thinking you left because of me." Claire's voice broke. "I left because I loved you." Silence again. Thick, alive. Sophie reached for her hand. "Mom, are they still coming?" Claire nodded. "They don't give up. They think if they capture you, they can restart the trials." Ethan turned back. "Then we finish it tonight. How?" Liam asked. "By burning every record," Ethan said. "By showing the world the truth." He opened the journal, flipping to the back where coordinates were scribbled. A data vault buried beneath coal industries. "Everything we need is there." Claire hesitated. "That place is a fortress." "So was my heart," Ethan said. "And you broke through that." "We'll break through this." They left at dusk. Using an old truck Claire had hidden years ago, the road twisted through mist and memory. Halfway down the mountain, Sophie fell asleep between them, head on Ethan's shoulder. He whispered, "She still hums the song you wrote." Claire smiled. She always did that when she was scared. By midnight, they reached the outskirts of the city. Alloy industries towered ahead, steel and glass reflecting. Lightning from distant clouds, Ethan. Parked in the alley behind it. If we do this, he said. There's no going back. Claire met his eyes. Maybe we don't need to. Inside, security lights pulsed like a heartbeat. They moved through service tunnels. Every sound amplified. Liam hacked the access panel with a tool Claire built from scrap metal. He grinned. Learned from the best. The vault door hissed open. Rows of servers blinked in cold blue light. Ethan plugged in the journal's drive. Claire typed a code. Her hands steady now. Finally sure. Files spilled across the screen. Proof of the experiments, payment trails. Names of children lost. Upload to the cloud, Ethan said. Make it public. Claire hit enter.progress bar, 1%. 2%. Then the lights cut out. Footsteps, voices. Daniel's men, Claire whispered. They traced us. Ethan grabbed Sophie's hand. Run to the stairwell, don't stop. Liam pulled Claire along while Ethan stayed behind. Buying seconds. He overturned a server rack, sparks flashing. Alarms shrieking, bullets shattered glass. He ducked behind metal beams, shouting, Keep going! Claire reached the stairwell door, Sophie clinging to her. The upload hit 92%. Almost there, Ethan said through clenched teeth. Daniel's voice echoed from the shadows. You never learn. Ethan turned. You're already finished. Daniel. Lights flickered. Upload 100%. Claire smiled through tears. It's out. Everyone will know. Daniel raised his gun. Then let's make sure you don't live to see it. A single shot thundered. Then another. When the smoke cleared, Daniel lay still. Liam stood shaking, the weapon slipping from his grasp again. I promised I'd protect her, he whispered. Ethan rushed forward, pulling him close. You did, kid. You did. Sirens wailed outside. Police, journalists. The world was already waking up. Claire took Ethan's hand. It's over. He looked at the monitors. Screens filled with news alerts. Faces of children once forgotten now filling every broadcast. Maybe it was. Maybe for once. The rain had washed something clean. They slipped out the back exit before the chaos reached them. At dawn, they stood on the same bridge where they'd first met. Sophie leaned against the rail, hair blowing in the soft wind. What happens now? She asked. Ethan smiled faintly. We start again. Claire looked at the horizon. The world's going to hate me for what I did. Then we'll remind it why you did it, Ethan said. Liam laughed quietly. Can we finally eat something that's not instant soup? Ethan chuckled. Yeah, kid. Whatever you want. The sun rose slow and gold, touching the wet streets below. For once there were no sirens. No shadows. Only the quiet hum of a city learning how to begin again. Claire reached for Ethan's hand. He squeezed it, feeling the pulse that had carried them through storm and loss and fire. Sometimes the rain doesn't end the story, he said. Sometimes it writes the next one. She smiled. Then let's write it together. Sophie turned toward them, eyes bright. Can we go home now? Ethan looked at the sky. We already are. Morning came slowly, like the world itself was tired. The city shimmered under a fragile layer of sunlight. After so many nights of storm, even the quiet felt like a miracle. Claire stood on the balcony of a small rented apartment, staring at the horizon. Her reflection in the window looked older, but not broken. Maybe time hadn't healed her. Maybe it had simply taught her how to breathe again. Behind her, Sophie was drawing, lines, colors, fragments of dreams. In her sketch, the three of them were standing under a clear sky. No rain. No shadows. Ethan brewed coffee in the kitchen. The smell weaving through the room like warmth returning to forgotten places. He glanced at Claire. Still can't sleep? She shook her head. Every time I close my eyes, I see them, the children from the files. Their faces. Their silence. Ethan walked closer. You saved them, Claire. You gave them back their stories. She smiled faintly. And what about us? Did we get ours back? He hesitated. Maybe we never lost it. Maybe it just waited for us to find the ending. Sophie looked up from her drawing. Can I show you something? She ran over, holding the paper like treasure. "This is us, see? You and Mom and Uncle Liam," Claire smiled. "Uncle Liam, huh?" Sophie giggled. "He said he doesn't like hugs, but I saw him cry when the news said people were free again." Ethan chuckled softly. "That's Liam. A storm outside. A heartbeat inside." Claire took the drawing and pinned it to the wall. It felt symbolic, a flag planted in peace after too much war. They visited the memorial, where the coal industries building once stood. There was now an open square. People had placed flowers, candles, photographs, names etched into metal plates, victims of the experiments, survivors who came forward. Cameras flashed as they walked through the crowd. Reporters shouted questions. Claire kept her head down, her hand wrapped around Sophie's. She didn't need to explain anymore. The truth was already louder than any words. A young woman approached, one of the rescued test subjects, barely 18. She held out a small pendant. "You dropped this years ago." "When you tried to get me out," Claire gasped softly. The pendant was hers, the silver one with an engraving. "To feel is to live," she whispered. "You kept it." The girl nodded. "It reminded me that being human was still okay." Claire's eyes welled. She hugged her gently. "Thank you for remembering when I couldn't." Ethan watched from a few steps away, his own chest tightening with pride and sorrow. He thought of how far they'd come, and from glass towers to broken streets to this open air of forgiveness. They sat by the river, the same river that once carried away their hope. Now it reflected city lights. Instead of fire, Liam joined them, limping slightly, bandages still visible beneath his jacket. He dropped a bag of food beside them. "Street vendor says it's the best shawarma in town." "Don't prove him wrong," Sophie laughed. "You came," Liam shrugged. "Someone has to keep you from burning dinner." Ethan smirked. "You missed us." "Admit it." Liam took a bite, maybe a little. Claire leaned back, listening to the sound of water. "It's strange. The world feels lighter." Liam nodded, because for once, the truth doesn't belong to the powerful. "It belongs to the people." Ethan looked at him. "What'll you do now?" Liam smiled faintly. "Start a school for kids like Sophie. Teach them to fight with words, not weapons." Sophie grinned. "Can I help?" He ruffled her hair. "You already are, kid." Ethan and Claire stood alone by the railing. The city glowed beneath them, alive, imperfect, free. He whispered, "Remember the night you left?" She nodded. "Every minute of it. I waited at the station for hours. Thought if I stared long enough, you'd come back." Claire's voice softened. "I did, just not soon enough." He smiled. "Maybe just in time." She turned toward him. "Do you ever regret it?" "Loving me?" He shook his head. "Never. Regret the silence, maybe, but not the love." She breathed out, tears slipping quietly. "For years, I thought strength meant never crying." He touched her. Cheek strength is crying and still walking forward. The wind carried the faint scent of jasmine, the same flower she once kept on her office desk before. Everything fell apart. Claire closed her eyes. "It smells like home," Ethan smiled. "Maybe home isn't a place. Maybe it's a moment, like this one." Days turned into weeks. The world moved on. But differently now. Coal Industries was dismantled. The survivors formed a foundation, Project Dawnlight, dedicated to restoring empathy education. Claire became its quiet force, not on screens, not in headlines, but in classrooms, helping children learn to feel again. Sophie thrived, drawing, singing, laughing in ways that once felt impossible. She'd whisper sometimes, "Mom, the world doesn't look scary anymore." Claire would smile. "That's because you helped it heal." Ethan returned to architecture, designing buildings filled with light, no longer glass cages. He said every window he drew now was a reminder, let the light in. They gathered on the roof again, Ethan, Claire, Sophie, and Liam, watching another storm roll across the horizon. Sophie squealed as thunder rumbled. "Rain again." Ethan smiled. "Don't worry, it's just visiting." Claire tilted her face upward. feeling the first drop hit her skin. It didn't sting anymore. It felt like a blessing. She whispered. I used to hate the rain, Ethan asked. Why? Because it always took something from me, and now it gives things back. The rain fell harder, but they didn't run. They stood there laughing, the kind of laughter that comes from survival, not joy alone, but from knowing you've made it through. Liam raised a cup of coffee and a mock toast, to second chances. Ethan raised his, to the truth. Claire lifted hers last, to feeling, and to never losing it again. A quiet monologue voice could play here. Maybe the world doesn't need perfection. Maybe it needs pain, love, confusion, all the messy things that make us human. Because in the end, that's what saves us, not control. Not order, but heart. The storm passed by midnight. The streets glistened. A single light in their apartment window flickered. Warm, alive. Inside, Sophie was asleep between them, clutching her sketchbook. On the open page, another drawing. 3 figures standing under an umbrella. Above them, in shaky handwriting, when the rain finally stops. We don't hide, we dance. Claire brushed a tear from her cheek, whispering, She got that from you, Ethan smiled. No, she got it from us, outside. The first stars broke through the clouds, quiet, unafraid, endless. And for the first time in years, no one was running, no one was hiding, just hearts, healed, human, whole.